Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. I can vividly remember the first time I heard those words. I was young, maybe 16 or 17, and we were working with a retired Army Marksmanship unit master sergeant at Fort Benning. My dad had worked out a deal with him so that he would give us training on how to, be safe on the range, how to shoot pistols, and how we could learn because we wanted to shoot competition. It was my brother and I who were really interested in this. And so for about 2 summers, we were out there 3 days a week working with Sergeant Gray and really getting after it. And he just was relentless with us with that mantra, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Because we were teenagers. We wanted to run and gun. We wanted to shoot fast, but that's not what made us better. And so he drilled into our heads, slow down, master the components, get good at the little things. Because when you're good at those, speed will come. And he shared this, and I didn't get it. Like, I honestly, it took me a while. I got it. I figured it out. It worked. But I didn't get the bigger lesson until years and years later. And then it clicked, where I went, whoa, I'm trying to go too fast. I'm trying to go too hard. And because of that, I'm not smooth. There's a lot of stop and go here. I'm losing momentum because I'm trying to go faster. And that applies in leadership. And that's when it clicked for me. There's a paradox that slowing down creates more speed for leaders. It creates more speed for your organization. It creates more impact for you, even though it feels incredibly counterintuitive, even though it feels uncomfortable. And that begs the question, why does pushing harder often slow us down? Being stuck in a reaction mode means that we're responding to our environment and we're not changing our environment. We're not intentionally inflicting change, and I use those words very intentionally, on our environment because we're too busy reacting to it. We're too busy responding to it. And so when we're trying to muscle through things, when we're trying to just bear down, grind harder, go further, go faster, hammer, 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 we're actually getting stuck in a doom loop of reactivity. We're getting stuck in a response mode, not in a proactive mode. And so we make poor investment decisions. Yes, investment. Time is an investment. It's not just money that we're worried about here. It is the precious time, the seconds, the days, the hours, the weeks, the months, and the years. When we are muscling harder, when we're trying to bear down and get as much done as possible, what we're actually doing is getting a lot of little things done that may or may not be the thing that matters. That's the problem. That's the hustle trap. The Eisenhower Matrix is one of my all-time favorite tools when I get stuck to really figure out what's important. And it's great on a daily basis, weekly, monthly, annually. I use it as a framing guide to make sure that I'm not getting stuck in my own head, that I'm not in a doom loop of trying to grind harder as opposed to focusing on what's most important. It's a simple matrix. It's 2 axes, and you have on the x-axis urgent to not urgent, and then on the y-axis you have important to not important. So think of it this way. In the top right-hand corner, we have those things that are not urgent, but incredibly important. And on the top left corner, we have those things which are urgent and important. Bottom left corner, we have not important and urgent. And in the bottom right, we have not urgent and not important. And what I find and have found for years is that when I'm grinding harder, I tend to spend more time in the bottom right and less time in the top right, because that's where we need to spend our time as leaders. We need to be focused on, are we doing the most important things? In fact, we should never spend any time in the not important zone. And that's the watch out. If you're in reaction mode, if you're trying to go further, farther, faster, harder, you're in that not important zone. You want to be focused on only those things which are most important. I love that tool. I'll put a link in the show notes. And it's so important to reframe, to give yourself the opportunity to reframe. Again, daily, weekly, monthly, annually. Maybe the best metaphor that I ever have found, and it really brought it home for me around how you can't out-muscle things came from swimming. Now, about 10 years ago, I got into Ironman racing and I loved it. Maybe it was a little longer than that now, 15 years ago. And I loved the challenge. I loved the ability to get out on the course and really stress your mind, because it wasn't physical, it was mental. Now, I had never learned to swim as a kid, not the proper way, right? I had swam, I knew how to swim. I wasn't going to drown, I hoped, but I never learned the right way to swim. And so when I got into triathlon, I went to the pool. In fact, I vividly remember going to the long course pool setup in Charlotte, North Carolina, and David Marsh was there. Now, I knew who David Marsh was. David had recently come to Charlotte and he was coaching at Swim Mac, and he was going to be coaching the next Olympic team. He had been an all-time winningest collegiate swimming coach at Auburn University, which was my alma mater. So I knew who he was. I remember being on the pool deck, getting up in a long lane course. Now, this is a 50-meter course pool, and it's my first day. I'm going, hey, I'm going to swim a few hundred meters, no big deal. And I got in the pool, and I started swimming. I saw David on the sideboard, and I'm going, I got an all-time national championship coach standing over there. I got to make sure I do this right. Well, I get down to the other end of the pool, and I hit the wall, and I turned. And I got to tell you, about halfway back, I'm struggling. I am working my tail off. I'm swimming as hard as I can, and I think I'm about to drown. In fact, I had to stop halfway back, grab the lane line, and I was gasping for breath. I had worked my tail off. I was only 75 meters into this swim. And I remember vividly David glancing over from the side of the pool just a few yards away going, "Are you okay?" And all I could think about was, this guy has no idea who I am. And here I am trying to outmuscle the water, and I'm going to drown. That's the metaphor. Swimmers have to be smooth, and smooth creates speed. And that was a lesson I had to learn the hard way, time and time again in the water. The harder I tried to muscle my way through, the harder I thrashed, the slower I went. But when I was able to get mentally focused on slowing down and being incredibly smooth, I could go faster. Now, let's be real. I was never going to set any speed records in the water, and I was never going to be that swimmer who looked like an amazing fish. But I was competent, and I could come out of the water refreshed. In fact, the swim became my favorite part of the entire Ironman experience because it was such a wonderful, de-stressing environment. Every single race I did, I always came out of the water relaxed, refreshed, ready to go. Now, I had been in the water for an hour and 15 minutes. I had been swimming the entire time. But mentally, I was ready. And it's because the whole time I swam, all I could think was that mantra: slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And that became my swimming stroke. This really came to bear for me in 2013 when I did the Ironman in Lake Tahoe. Now, Lake Tahoe is at altitude. We were at 6,200 feet of elevation. And I remember asking a friend of mine, a swim coach who had been at the Olympic Training Center in Boulder earlier that year, what it was like to swim at altitude. And he was really very strong in his conviction. He said, well, it's like taking a couple of straws and breathing through them with your nose and your mouth taped shut. You only get to breathe the air through that straw. So frankly, I was a little scared. I was very much worried about getting hypoxic on the swim and not being able to come out of the race and do well. So it forced me to slow down. In fact, that was absolutely my mantra that entire swim. I have vivid memories of just breathing and going slow. The result was that my swim time wasn't that much slower than a non-altitude race, only about 5 minutes. But I was so worried that all I focused on was smooth. And that has stayed with me my entire life. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Slow down to go faster. Get the fundamentals right. Here's how you apply this within leadership. Here's how you think about this to give yourself the space you need. First, you have to pause to think. You have to create intentional white space. Leadership requires time. It requires energy. It requires focus. You can't shortcut it. You can't find a way to out-muscle it. You can't just work harder. You have to really be intentional. Pause to think. Give yourself that space. Remind yourself that If you're not pausing to think about where the organization is going, where your team is going, where you are going, who can do it better than you? Is it work that only you can do? And I think it is. Create intentional white space. Number 2, install a circuit breaker. Stop the reaction loops. And I like to think about circuit breakers as those things that are mental cues or triggers that allow me to break free from a reactive moment, that allow me to break free from whatever cycle my mind and body is reacting to. Because we are emotional beings, we're humans. But when we get into a reactive loop, we're delegating to our emotions our most important decisions. I'm going to say that again because I think it's so incredibly important. When we get into a reactive state and we're grinding and pushing and trying so hard, we're delegating our most important decisions to an emotional state. Is that where you want to be? Here's one of the questions that I use when I am caught in that cycle and I need to break free. Will this matter a year from now? Will this thing that I'm doing, this effort that I'm making, this grinding that I'm really just getting after, this muscling I'm trying to get through, will it matter a year from now? If the answer is yes, muscle on. The answer is no, then you need to step back, think about it. Why am I doing this? Why does it matter? And principle number 3, teach pace to others. Model this thoughtfulness. Tell your team, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to pause and I'll get back to you tomorrow. People need to know that they shouldn't expect an immediate reaction from you. They shouldn't expect an immediate answer all the time. Not every situation demands immediacy. Teach people. Communicate that that's what you're going to do. You're going to say, hey, I'm going to take a minute and think this through. I'll get back to you tomorrow. Let's set up a time next week to talk about this. People need to know when you model this type of thoughtfulness, you are not only teaching your team what to expect, but it allows you to be additive in an exponential way, not just linear. You're not just taking one person's thoughts and adding yours to it or responding to them. What you're doing is you're taking time to think. You're taking the time to reach out to a mentor. You're taking the time to think of other situations and how this is applied in other areas. It allows you to create an exponential impact when you teach this pace to others, when you use the circuit breaker to allow yourself not to react. So in the real world, here's how this applies. Leadership impact compounds when smoothness replaces urgency. Leadership is an exponential force. It's not linear. We're not just working with one person. We're not just working with ourselves. We're influencing, even if we're a solopreneur, we're influencing our family, we're influencing our clients, we're influencing others. If we have a team, if they have teams, everything we do is nonlinear. Leadership is a non-linear exercise. It's exponential. We must break free from the muscling cycle so that we can really focus on those things that create an exponential impact, not just a linear impact. A thoughtful leader will impact dozens, hundreds, thousands of people across their lifetime. Make the time count. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Here's a couple of other reflection questions that you can use when you're thinking about this, when you're giving yourself that time and space. How do you surround yourself with people who help you slow down? Who is going to be a good thought partner? Who is going to be a good person for you to slow down with? And then who are the people that make you question what you've always believed? Who are the ones that make you go, I'm not sure that's exactly the right path anymore. Maybe it is. Maybe their questions help you affirm what you believe, but you have to take that time. Here's the takeaway. Leadership isn't about thrashing harder. It's about rhythm. It's about intention. It's about precision. Every motion counts. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. Slow down. Focus on the most important things. Don't try to out-muscle everything. Remember that when you do, you're in an emotional state. You're delegating to your emotions those decisions which are most important. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. It's amazing how when you get this right, everything else speeds up. Your impact speeds up. Your influence speeds up. The results speed up. It's counterintuitive, but it's incredibly powerful. So as we wrap up today, I'll leave you with this. Where do you need to slow down so that you, your team, and the things that matter can actually move faster. Thanks for tuning into this solo episode of Leadership Unlocked. If something hit home today, if it challenged you, clarified something, or gave you a tool that you can use, don't just keep it for yourself. Apply it, share it, talk about it with your team. And if you're leading through something tough right now, just know this: you don't have to figure it out alone. That's what this podcast, this work, and this community are all about. Want more tools like this? Head over to arcusgroup.com/podcast or visit arcusgroup.com and join the newsletter. No fluff, just what helps you lead better. Until next time, keep leading with clarity and courage. This is Leadership Unlocked.